Hello? Can you hear me? Hello? Uh, my kids are upstairs, so hopefully you guys can hear me. Um, you should be able to. Yeah, okay. It says we're live, so I'm just gonna go with we're live. Okay. Hi everybody. How's it going? Um, Chrisiosity here, as always. And I wanted to talk to you about a couple of different things. Um, First of all, some housekeeping, and I apologize. I have like some just awful, um, like head stuff going on right now. Um, just, ugh, I have allergies, so they're just acting up for some reason. Um, my Disney video, which I've been working on for so long now, it seems, was eaten by Adobe Premiere, but I think I can get it back. I'm going to work on that and find out tomorrow if I can. So let's hope for that now. Can somebody in the chat just say something so that I know that I'm not talking to myself? Because it feels a little weird. Because I don't know, am I frozen? What is going on? Test, test, test. So does that mean you can hear me, Jojo? I'm not frozen. Okay, good, good. Ah, um, right. So I told you about the Disney thing. Tomorrow I'm going to be on, I believe, Christy Winter's channel. We're going to be discussing songs of like protest music that uh, has helped us in some way or another as either as some sort of activist or what have you. So that's going on tomorrow on Christy Winter's channel at 3 o'clock EST, I do believe. So, so check that out, and that is part of the Culture Club. I think we're having a couple. Jan, as always, will be there. Not Jan, Jan. I can't. Sorry. I'm the worst person with names in the entire world. I really am. But Culture Shop on YouTube. And then I think somebody else is coming too, and I haven't quite gotten the definite on that. So I think that's all of the housekeeping stuff I had. So I wanted to talk about Angie Speaks' most recent video, which was, I wrote down there, social justice can be a clout game. And I thought she did a very good job on that. You know, I really thought that a lot of her points were great. I've watched it a couple times through now, and it did well with repeat watching as well, because you got to sort of, like, there were some things, some nuances I didn't pick up on the first go round. For those who haven't seen it, it is linked, so that would be great if you guys would go and check it out. But I will review some of her points quickly. Her premise was that social justice online has evolved into a clout game, which can be unintentional. She talked about a lot of different things, such as the construction of personal branding, validation, getting support, the various metrics that are used by capitalist platforms and their structures, and how, as leftists, we sort of fit in or don't fit into that. And also how the language, the kinds of values that we have can be taken over by bad faith actors who can use them in a way. Oh, hi, some random geek. Yep, that's fine. I guess there's other left-wing things going on right now. So what can you do? People can watch this later, maybe. So I think that, and I should say that she was very careful to talk about that. She's not talking about that identity is bad, that people shouldn't, that marginalized people, you know, any structure that allows the voices of marginalized people to come forward is good. She's not saying that. She's just talking about the potential for abuse and sort of some of the things that in leftist circles, as part of a conscious building of community, we should be aware of. So I think that's, it's very, very basic. But if anybody has any questions or found any of that unclear, let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to just go on and talk about just some of the things that maybe I thought, oh, yeah, that's a good idea. Oh, I have another thought about that. Or, oh, I want to expand on that a little bit. Things like that, which are, you know, I think that this is, we can't let any one person just say, yes, we need to do better on this, and then just go, yep, we have this covered now. Like everybody, all hands should be on deck, especially if you come from a more anarchist or more egalitarian leftist position. That means everybody should be thinking about this, and people should be talking about this and brainstorming and coming up with ways to sort of to think about or interact with this in ways that can be better. So I'm going to just talk about some of the things that I've seen or experienced over time. This may not be for anybody else. It may not, what works for me may not work for other people. I'm well aware of that. But I can only talk about where I've been from, because I've been, oh gosh, I've been on the left side of YouTube for years, several years now. Obviously not as long as some people, but I think since 2015 or 2016, somewhere in the, yeah, maybe 2015. It's been a long time, I think. It's been, oh, ouch, while. So, and I've seen a lot. I've seen people come and go. I've seen drama after drama. I've seen outrage and how it gets dealt with, and sometimes how it doesn't get dealt with. And I think that there's a lot that we could discuss about how to more healthily engage. So let's look at some of her specific. I wrote some notes down. Okay. The first thing that I think we need to talk about is her point about capitalist logic and metrics and troubling behavior in the name of visibility and power. Every leftist, particularly a leftist who, like me, or like many of the people here probably, are anti-capitalist or critical of capitalism, lives a life of cognitive dissonance. It's difficult and stressful at times because um, capitalism is so pervasive, and we have to live and function in this world, right? It's not something that we can just decide we're going to opt out of. Never going to be that easy. Um, so on the one hand, we're always like one foot in and one foot out of the boat at the same time, and it's a fun. So, and on the one hand, you can drive yourself crazy. I've seen people just like trying to sort of cleanse or purify themselves from the influences of capitalism, which you can't do here. Like you just can't. It's everywhere, and you'll never sort of um, unless you're going to go live in a commune somewhere far, far away off the grid. You're never getting out of it. And even then, we've all been sort of raised and conditioned in a certain way. So, yes, I think there are things that we can constructively do to be aware of the different kinds of metrics and how they affect us. I think awareness is the number one thing that everybody should be looking for. Um, so, what do I mean by that? I mean, you should know inside of yourself when you are seeking, when you are feeling things that are indoctrinated into you about competition, about zero-sum games, like feeling like somebody else's success has to come at your um, expense somehow, and that people, that our own sort of specialness, our own success is predicated on other people's failures. And I think that the first thing that you could do is just be aware of that. Be aware of the emotional pull, the ego pull that that can have on you. Um, I'm talking about ego in sort of a Buddhist sense. Um, Theory Plebe says that Nancy Fraser and Rahul Jaigi, am I saying that right, are excellent for this. I'm probably not saying that right, but and I do think that we have to look at ourselves when you talk about troubling behavior in the name of visibility and power. I've definitely seen a lot of that, and it's one of those things that you can convince yourself that you're doing the wrong things for the right reasons. Um, but that's a real tough. I'm not a big fan of that. Because pretty soon you end up like one of those people that is trolling SJWs by pretending to be a Nazi, and the next thing you know, it's gotten in there, right? Like I don't know if there's ever exactly where the line is, but I know that, you know, people who start out with this is just trolling to um Kevin Logan's getting stream sniped by what's apparently a less relevant version of Gamergate, but with comments. Yeah. Oh, yes, yes. Oh, I've gotten, that's Comicsgate. Yeah, I've gotten dogpiled by them as well, and it's it is kind of I'm glad to see that there is less concentration of power there. So because it is a pale, pale reflection of the old dog piles, but they are a toxic bunch. So, yeah, assholes. Anyway, Dorian Sapien says, when you sleep with dogs, you wake up with fleas. Yeah. Um, you certainly do. And who we hang out for, the things we do influence us, right? No, Kevin doesn't lie with dogs. I think that she was not. Um, I think that. Am I calling you a she? Are you a she? I just realized I might be. I don't know why in my head I thought you were a she, but anyway, I think that she was talking about my earlier point before I wandered off. Um, Poor Kevin. He gets a lot of shit. Yeah. So again, I was talking about awareness, and I was talking about the choices that we make. Um, and part of it is pretty soon after you start making the wrong choices and making excuses for it and rationalizing it as I'm doing the same bad things that this group is, but I'm doing it for the right reasons. Well, you start down that path and it sort of snowballs and it gets away from you. Um, so I'm not a fan of that. I think you have to be very careful. And if you are going to do something like this, because to some degree we all have to do it, right? Like, I'm living in a capitalist society. I'm not going to not do the capitalism. It's here. I'm on YouTube. YouTube is not a pure and virtuous, wonderful place to be. I'm on Twitter, which is an awful place. Uh, all of these social media environments, which are so important, and I will be fucked if I'm going to give them up to the other side because I'm too pure, right? But at the same time, we have to sort of watch ourselves and be careful about it and be honest. I think honesty and transparency is another major thing. And Angie spoke about this and said, well, sometimes because of this sort of the pressures that we're under, we don't admit to mistakes. And I was thinking, like, what have I done that I should? Are there things that I've done that I've sort of like regretted but not talked about because, like, I hope they don't notice that I'm not this great person all the time, that I fuck up, right? And there have been, I have, when you go to places like when I went to have the debate that I went to at Mythicist Milwaukee, still the worst person on about names ever. It becomes, you're put in a position where you kind of have to go along to get along a little bit, and knowing when you can do that and when you cannot and where you can't becomes like almost a moment to moment assessment. And and like, looking back, I can sit here and think, God, somebody handed me a MAGA hat and asked me to sign it, and I did, right? Because when they talked to me, I thought that they were doing this as some sort of ironic thing, and I was like, yeah, whatever, okay. I don't know why you would want me to sign a MAGA hat, but fine. We're being ironic. We're trolling. And that was a stupid thing to do. I was wrong to do it. And it wasn't, he basically lied to me. And it wasn't ironic, right? I didn't get any in trouble for that. Nobody caught on to that I had done that. It was just me knowing that I had done that stupid thing. And again, I hadn't even thought about this until I sat down and said, well, what have I been less than honest about? What have I been less than transparent about? And that came to my mind. Um, but I'm sure that there is many, many other things. And it's being willing to just say, yeah, I fuck up. Yeah, I make mistakes. And so do you, and so do we all. And we can sort of grow together and be conscious and be aware. It starts with awareness, and then it goes from there to choices. And again, there's a balance there. Hey, Ash, how's my girl? Um, it's a balance between driving yourself nuts. And I apologize for any for using that term if it brings up any feelings on people. But it's a balance between this sort of, vigilance, hypervigilance that just starts to cause you endless anxiety that goes nowhere and is not productive. And between just like playing the game. Oh, I'm so sorry. Ah, okay. Phoenix. Um, and getting along and doing things, and then one day you wake up and you realize, who the fuck am I, and what am I doing, and what is really going on. And I think that there are a lot of I think that that is something that's happened to a lot of people who considered themselves on the left and were maybe taken by surprise that what qualified you for a comfortable liberal in 1994. Yeah, I can be, I can think of myself as a progressive liberal here. And moving on to what where the left is now, where we all are here in our current moment, which is completely different. Um, yeah, the left moves people. That's what it does. It's progress, so it progresses. Um, so I think the first thing that I would say is that we need to be aware of what we're doing and how we're doing it, and we need to talk about it. We need to talk openly with each other about it and say, this is the decisions that I'm making. This is why I'm making these choices that I'm making. And is this going to, what do you guys think about it? And taking in some criticism, but also giving back your own point of view and having it not be this sort of absolute thing. I have seen, one of the things that I have seen is that people on the left um, sometimes don't differentiate between a disagreement where it's okay to disagree. It's okay if two people don't have exactly the same point of view on XYZ, and sometimes it's not, right? And but not every disagreement has to end in people having drama or having a fight or sort of breaking up a friendship, breaking up a group. Um, so it's one of those it's one of those things where you have to take the balance and where you have to make the choice. Um, I will discuss here, I guess, as a good example, might be for those of you who remember Lacey Green, the issues that happened with her a little bit before, right? Um, Now I don't know who was there. Lacey Green was a feminist, still is, I guess, a feminist YouTuber and personality, and she was on MTV. Um, and so what happened was that at a certain point, for whatever reason, I'm not gonna, I don't know her. I didn't know her then. I don't know her now. I know a lot of people who did know her, and I knew some of the behind the scenes stuff. So I knew some of the stuff that was going on. Um, but I'm not gonna, she decided to, she wanted to talk more to the other side, and there was some dating and some hugging and some um, just sort of questionably turfy videos, and it just sort of progressed and snowballed. And from the outside, I'm sure it did look as if the left just saw her move away and just went, well, fuck you. That's it. You're gone, right? Um, and that really wasn't one of the things that wasn't the way it went. I mean, people were reaching out to her, people were talking to her, people were giving, really having these sort of long discussions and trying to build bridges. And it was one of the sort of things that certain things that happened and that she chose to do, that whole, it just turned into a debacle. Um, so I guess there's two things there. One is that the first thing that you should do is to try to reach out to people, try to talk to them, try to have these sort of private communications, and know that that may not work, right? And it's disappointing, but it happens, right? Um, there was a certain point where she went to a place where I would not feel comfortable um, interacting with her or supporting her. Um, and it's because of some of the choices that she made and the fact that I felt like she really wasn't listening to people, that she was saying on the one hand, hey, I'm an ally, I'm a trans ally, and then turning around and doing things that nobody who has called yourself an ally should be doing, or saying those things. I mean, an ally doesn't, I don't know what ally means to other people, but to me it doesn't mean I'll screw you. I'll screw you right over as soon as I feel like I need to for some reason. So, I mean, that's whether or not that's a great example, I don't know. But that was sort of what I'm talking about, where you try to reach out, you try to do the best that you can do, and then you have to accept what happens. There's this, and this isn't something that Angie so much said, but there is a really confusing thing that sometimes people talk about, which is like, oh, well, you're going to cancel this person, you're going to cancel them from the left. And on the first, like, people know, right, that we don't mean we're going to take them out back and shoot them, right? That's not what saying I want nothing more to do with you, or I don't feel comfortable supporting you, or I don't want to um, have this sort of relationship with you is not saying I want anything to damage or hurt you or do anything. It's just, no. I The left is not a social club. I'm here because I have policies and goals, and ideas and values and things I want to see made manifest in the world. And if you share that with me, then great, comrade. I love you to pieces. Bring it on in. I'm right with you. And if you don't share that, okay, bye. Like that's how I kind of take it. Like, I can talk to you. I talk to liberals all the damn time. Um, I talk to center lefty kinds of people all the time. And I'm always trying to sort of like, we need more people. We need people to have these conversations and to understand. I can't do anything with people beyond sort of center left. I'm going to be honest with you. Like, once you sort of get into the center right, I don't, I'm not even talking your language, so I don't know how to bridge that particular gap. Maybe some people can do it better, but I feel like I can make the conversation about why we need to be aware of the problems of capitalism. My personal belief is that within capitalism, what the hell? We're never getting anywhere, right? I'm sorry, am I still here? Okay, so somehow I'm going to, I sort of clicked off there, but I'm back. Um, in any case, what the fuck was I saying? Jesus Christ. My brain sometimes. All right, I can't. I honestly don't remember. Where the hell was I? All right, so Hillary is an honest to goodness racist and has benefited hugely off of mass incarceration that her husband enacted. Yep. I don't want to let Bernie off any hook. Anyway, so see, I went through Lacey Green. I actually made notes, so this would be a good time to talk about. Oh yeah, I think it's good to reach out to people that you feel that you can reach out to and talk to and have a conversation with, um, because in particular, I don't know about you, like growing up in America, I had to say the Pledge of Allegiance every freaking day of my life. From like kindergarten on. Um, that was every morning. Put your hand over your heart and, swear that under God you were gonna you were pledging allegiance to the flag and blah 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 blah. And that's a lot in a person, right? They talk about indoctrination. And many of us have been indoctrinated. We may have been indoctrinated into religion or into nationalism, and we've certainly been indoctrinated into capitalism constantly. And all of these things actually have worked together to create a status quo and a structure wherein we all live. So I don't think that blaming people for not um, coming out and being like 20 and going, "Yep, I'm ready for the revolution." Let's do this. uh, so I think that we have to be there to explain our point of view and to sort of discuss things and to not expect that everybody is going to be in the same place. That doesn't mean we should accept abuse. It doesn't mean we should accept um, behavior that is awful. And it certainly doesn't mean that anybody is sort of guaranteed to be on the left because they want to, even though they don't share any of the values or ideals or anything, you know? Yeah. Can has revolution? I think so. It Whether it's violent or not, I'm not saying that it needs to be. It ideally it would not be, but I do think all right. Let me discuss a little bit um, and I don't usually do this, talking about my personal experiences and how I came to where I am. Um, oh, a sibling fell down the intellectual dark web. Oh no, that's terrible. We'll get him out. It's not permanent. Um, all right. So history lesson. And there's a reason I'm going to share this. I hope it's not too completely boring uh, for you. So my dad was a hippie from way back, um, and suffered from it, right? So, in very material ways, he grew up very poor, um, spent time in like Catholic orphanage, spent time in um, those kinds of places, and let me tell you, did not care for how things went there. So he got to a place where he all this sort of stuff was going on in the 60s and early 70s. Um, and he was very much a part of that. He did some um, civil rights types of protests and writings. And it's a long story, but in the high school he was in at 10th grade, they kind of screwed him over. They kind of kicked him out. And then he just ended up quitting because he was just disgusted. After that, he was drafted, and he knew somebody that was drafted to Vietnam. Obviously, um, he knew like a Unitarian minister who was a friend who helped him become a conscientious objector. He had to work a couple of years in at Hanneman Hospital, doing like uh, crappy jobs like washing dishes and shit. Um, and after that, he did, and he ended up getting his GED at some point. He was working in factories. He was making um, tires, and it destroyed his back. It sort of destroyed like large parts of his body. Did you, Adam? Are you messing with Steve Shives? Come on. Be nice. What's going on with Steve Shives? Never mind. Never mind. Oh, it's not him? Oh, God. Sorry. Oh, God, another fake account. They love to make fake accounts of Steve Shives. Ah, that poor guy. So, my mother was, when she first had me, was 18. She worked at McDonald's at the time. She's been a nurse's aide. She's been a secretary. She's been a nurse now. Um, so this was sort of, I came from a very working class background, and I also came from a very leftist background, is my point. Um, and I've worked in nursing homes as a as a CNA, an ass wiper, basically. I've worked with people with disabilities, cognitive and otherwise. I've mentioned that before, so I'm not going to go too far into that again. So, working in a for-profit nursing home, which was the first job that I ever had, if anything will turn you off from capitalism and make you like see just how awful these these can be, um, for humans. Like, and also seeing that the story that people tell you that there's this solution and it's a capitalist solution. I don't buy that at all. I no longer believe that in any sense of the word. I just don't. Um, I think it's garbage. So that's what brought me to here. And so when I see people, um, coming and saying that I should be allowed to be, this asshole, this bigot, this whatever, and you should still accept me in your left thing, that's where I start to say, no, it's not, again, not a social club. If you want a social club, there are social clubs. Um, like it's fine. Yeah. For-profit nursing home is the perfect encapsulation of the hell that is capitalism. I could tell you stories, my God, my God. But we're not gonna now. So you've tolerated enough of my personal crap. Um, it's about, though, that I'm here for people who mean it, right? I'm here, um, for the people who genuinely care about other people and who want to do the right thing for people, and um, and who have some of the same ideals that I have. I'm not here to sit here and listen to your brilliant ideas about why white men of the working class shouldn't have to think about their racist behavior or whatever, right? Um, because that's just asking too much, like, okay. No, it's not asking too much. We all have to do these things. We all have to think about these things. We all have to sort of process and have awareness and move on, um, from where we're going. That doesn't mean that we need to behave as like we're angels and just, we're pure. And no, we have to be very honest about our foibles and our difficulties and when we're getting confused and when we're getting hung up, right? Um, we should be interacting with each other. We should be sharing these experiences, these thoughts, these feelings with each other. We shouldn't be hiding them away or tucking them, um, or pressing them down. Like that's not, that is what capitalists would have us do. That is what, that's the rules that we've learned before, where everything was a zero sum, where you had to protect yourself, where you had to wall yourself off because everybody else is your enemy or your competition or something else like that. Um, so that's exactly where we shouldn't be, right? Another, and this is just, I just, again, put down some little notes. Um, in talking about people who do these streams who are YouTubers, there's a few things that I think that we should keep in mind. One is that we need to have really good boundaries with ourselves and with other people. Um, and we should be thinking about that. Um, it was brought up to me, for instance, that some people have like Patreon goals that are like, come have a private conversation with me and you can ask me anything or ask me to do things or whatever. And that's a way of, that's not a healthy boundaries kind of thing. Like I can see putting something like that in and not even thinking about that. Um, but like you should be thinking about that. You should be thinking about, I want to protect the people on the viewer side, and I don't want to make it seem like I am some. But honestly, if you hung out with me for a day, you'd be bored out of your friggin' mind. Um, there's nothing. This is a thing that I'm doing. This is a hobby. It's the most 70s retro stitching thing. We could all be really excited to sit here and watch me stitch. Like, I'm not an exciting person. I'm not. Thank you for saying it looks fat. I do try. Cross stitch, Clout Game. This is not cross stitch. How dare you? No, this is actually embroidery, but I do also cross stitch. But yeah, boring person. Not really into like hanging with lots of uh, cool and interesting and hip people. And if I were going to, I would not be the most exciting conversationalist because I'm shy and awkward in person. So, like, um, so it's about not feeling like you have to measure up. Like I can't measure up to be somebody that I'm not, and I don't want to try. And I don't want you to think that um, that because I put myself forward on YouTube, and let's be honest, anybody who puts themselves on YouTube has has a little bit of an ego thing. You just do. We do. We know it. We're looking for something. um, Cross stitching while listening to audiobooks. Oh my God, TMM, it's true. I do love that. I listen to podcasts. I sit there, podcast, listen to podcasts, and there's cross stitching. You don't want to know. So, all right. I guess this backfired. I learned that you guys are all closet cross-stitching lovers. Did not see that coming. All right. Yeah. But now I'm impressed with us all. All right. I took notes, as I said before. Now I think we are on to the cynical outrage marketing and victimhood. Angie did a great job talking about these things and balancing the needs to talk about the need to protect victims and support victims, but that also capitalism is going to there is nothing that capitalism will not attempt to commodify. There's nothing on the left that capitalism is not going to try to pick up, say, I wonder how we can make money off of this while at the same time taking the teeth out, right? There's nothing that's going to happen that's going, that is not going to be part of what happens in our society. And a lot of it isn't even going to be conscious or or like, let's say that you're a person who's grown up in a capitalist society and you've been victimized or you've been oppressed by people. Colonization of social justice. Hi. And hi, Angie. Hey. Awesome. Aw, everybody came to see me. You'll get to a point as that person who's sort of grown up in these structures, within these things, been taught the rules. You'll be a person always looking over your shoulder, and you'll be a person who doesn't trust. And so looking to use, how do I put this? So many people manipulate me into trying to give them something that I would give them for asking without any problem. Does that make sense? It's people who either can't believe that there is such a thing as just giving and kindness and comradeship and mutual support and cooperation, because that hasn't been their experience of life and that isn't what they've been taught about life, right? It's so instead of just coming and saying, I need validations, I feel alone, I feel alienated, I feel wronged, and I know that something is wrong with the way that things are, and I just wanted to stop, and I need other people around me. I want to talk to people. I want to share with people. I want to get some of this hollow feeling or this confused cognitive dissonant feeling of things just not being okay. There are a lot of people out there that cannot make themselves that vulnerable. And it's because they've been raised in that way, that everything is competition, everything is zero sum, everything is hurt, right? So just just the idea of reaching out across and speaking about your experience and your feelings and saying, I'm vulnerable and I'm okay with that. I'm vulnerable to you. I want you to be vulnerable to me. Um, that sense, within healthy boundaries, within good limits, not weird vulnerable, but like in terms of as one human to another human being vulnerable. Angie talked a lot about working with our shadows, and I think that's really important. And I think the first thing that we need to do when we're working, or the first thing that I would do when we're working with our shadow, I think it's a much more, it's an individual thing, is to work around our complicated feelings about what it means to be a victim, or what that is supposed to look like, or how that's supposed to work. Um, Now, there are some things that I had never talked about. Like, I never, prior to being on YouTube and being in a position where I felt like I had to, I never talked about being raped. I never talked about being sexually victimized. I never discussed those things openly. And and it hasn't always been easy. And part of that is that I don't want to be defined by that. And I don't want to be, I know how that just opens you up, because if there's one thing I can promise you, if you come and say, this sort of thing happened to me, right? The only thing that everybody is going to agree on is that whatever you're doing it wrong, right? you, there are 100,000 ways to victim wrong, and none of them are right. It's kind of like being a Black person and trying to protest. There's just no way to do it correctly. Um, every way is wrong, except staying at home and shutting the fuck up. And so, and the thing is, I've never considered myself a victim. Like, I consider myself a victim the way you might consider yourself broke. Like, a personal thing happened for a short period of time. It wasn't like, and then from then on, she wore the red V, and this was who she was from that day on. You know, like that's not the totality or of me, and it's not an identity I want to cultivate. But that doesn't mean, like, I would love to just be able to talk about it. I would love to just be able to sit down and have a conversation and say, here's some stuff that happened, and here's what I sort of taken from it, and here's what I've thought about it, and here's what I did, and not feel like I'm either being put up to this, oh, now we will put her up on a pedestal, for she is pure and she has once been victimized, and now she may stay there and we may watch. You know, like, that's not what I want. And I don't, like, it's just part of our human experience, right? Everybody is weak sometimes. Everybody is sick sometimes. Everybody is vulnerable. Everybody can be hurt. Everybody can be victimized. Everybody can have something terrible taken from them. That is a reality of our lives. Um, and that's something that we just need um, to process. And so I think that that is part of the shadow work. And I think that thinking about it as, yeah, you can't victim wrong, right? It's all just part of your process. It's all just part of going from a bad place to a better place to a better place. And maybe you go backwards sometimes. Maybe things don't work out. Maybe things get really fucked up, and then you get better again. But like, it's just part of that. That's the messy process of living while human and existing while a person. And as non-compete has just pointed out, it is possible to be a victim and oppressor at the same time. In fact, I think it's one of the most possible things in the world. um, this was going to come up in my video that I'm working on for toxic masculinity. But, you know, when I was, as I mentioned, I was working in these sort of, was in this working class place. And I lived in this neighborhood, and there was this family there. And the father there were two boys, two girls. So the father would take these two little boys out, and he would play like catch with them, but he would play it in the most toxic way you can imagine. So he would throw this ball right up 8 feet over their heads, and then tell them that they were pussies and faggots because they didn't catch it. What the fuck is the matter with you, fucking pussy? Fuck, can't you just jump and get the ball? You know. And I'm so sorry. I got carried away with memory. I should have I should have warned people that I was about to use those words. I'm truly sorry. That was a fuck up. So that is like, but that was a thing that happened. I'm not canceled. Well, that's good. It's fine. Angie's making excellent points in the chat, by the way. This kid was a bully who terrorized me, to the point where the police had to become involved because he'd beaten me with sticks so badly that I was covered in just like welts and things. And he did that because he was a victim, and he didn't want to be a victim, and he thought that that was how to not do that. He thought that was how to be a man, was to make other people hurt. So yeah, I mean, it's a bad scene. And as AngieSpeaks says, there's this thing where like you have to sort of almost produce, people want you to produce your pain for them to voyeuristically consume sometimes. And it's so like, no, I don't fucking owe you that. You know, when I talk about the things that I talk about, sometimes I've been called many times a liar for no reason, just because, you know, you're a liar. I got my eye on you. You said this bad thing happened, but you didn't produce like a police report and, you know, your rape kit and 97 other independent pieces of evidence to me, so you're lying. And it's like, I don't care if you believe me or not. You know, it doesn't change anything. It doesn't change what happens whether you believe me. It doesn't change what I go through. It doesn't change what other people have gone through. Um, I don't owe it to you to prove it to you because I'm not asking you to do anything with it. This is my experience. If you don't want to fucking hear about it, there are other channels. Nobody's making you watch this. Um, One of the things that I've seen that makes me very uncomfortable um, is that, for instance, in Patreon, a lot of the things that people do to sort of get more money is to talk about how poor they are, to talk about how their financial sufferings, their various things that are going badly in their lives, to sort of put on this whole show. And the thing is, I'm sure that they, in many, many cases, they are being absolutely honest. But I'm very uncomfortable with the idea that that's an expectation that people are going to want. And if it becomes a thing, like I can benefit from having this, I'm going through this terrible thing. Please give me money. Please, um, we're going to end up like televangelists did in the early 80s. If anybody ever watched those people, I will live on bread and water. God has said to me, he needs me to build this great edifice. So please send money. Come on. Like, again, the people that are generally doing it are probably 99% uh, totally legit. And they are just sharing their experience because you need to know, and then you can say, oh, okay, I have so much money I can donate, so this is, I'll give it to the person who needs it. Yeah, that's Aurora of it. Um, but my concern is that a person can see that and say, oh, well, if that story, uh, can you imagine Andy Worski getting a brain thought in his head and deciding he's going to come out there and say, oh, poor, woe is me? He would do it, whether he had anything going on or not. And that's about taking advantage, right? And that's about finding a way to commodify uh, what we have. And the truth is, we shouldn't, having a brain thought. Yes, I'm sorry. I didn't say I had brain thoughts either. um, I hope that we're thinking about that and thinking um, that we don't feel the need for people to be all Oliver Twisty up in our business. And please, may I have some more Patreon dollars from you? Like, that's not an expectation. If somebody offers us information about that thing, then we can process that and say, oh, okay, this person does have a need, and I'm here. I'm happy to help people out who need help. Um, but I don't think that that should be something that we expect of our YouTubers. I don't think it's something that we should expect everybody. Like, we should be offering money to Patreon if that's the kind of thing that you want to see. Because work. We want to give people benefit for the work that they do, not for being really good at being at spinning a story for us. Just a person who um, because who spins the best story isn't necessarily going to be the person who really needs it the most. So it's again, it's just about awareness. It's not about um, having this sort of like suspicious, untrusting um, mindset, but just knowing where you are at, you know. And I have had people try to play this game with me, and it becomes difficult. Right? I have had people um, not be honest, or again, people sometimes manipulate me to do things that I would just do because they asked. But they feel like they need to put on this dog and pony show, or they feel like they need to be manipulative. They feel like they can't just say, "Hey, I, you know, this is something that I need." You know. Let's talk about. I'm going back to my really messy notes because I think I've moved on from the major things I wanted to say. Um, mm. She talked about Rose Mcgowan, um, which I think is an excellent example of the kind of thing that we're talking about. And Rose McGowan went through something horrible. Um, and I feel like we can say that and at the same time say that some of the things that she did as part of the Me Too movement, in terms of, you know, the Me Too movement was started by a Black woman named Tarana Burke who worked tirelessly for years to sort of bring this up. This is what happens on the left. Somebody who's from a marginalized group, from a repressed group, works in the background, um, does all the really necessary stuff of going out and setting up frameworks and networking and getting message out there, and then somebody else takes it and runs with it, which sucks. And it would suck a lot less if somebody like Ms. McGowan had been a little more like, I want to thank Tarana Burke. Like, I want to thank these people that had come before, who had set this framework that I can use. And instead, she was abusive to trans women and got turfy and sort of put the attention on herself, partly because, she is an actor. She's in this kind of field where that's what is the norm. It's not like this isn't the I hate Rose McGowan stream, but it's also an acknowledgement that this is very much a danger that people can wander into, and that you shouldn't have to like choose. You shouldn't have to say, um, I've had people say to me that they will support the McDonald's workers that are talking about sexual harassment, but they won't support actresses doing it. And I think that's bullshit. It's absolutely bullshit. Um, Wherever that these sorts of things happened, it's bad. Um, and again, it's about looking at it and saying, I want to support the workers' movement that is Me Too, because it is a workers' movement. And a lot of the left, I think, dropped the ball on it by not saying this is a workers' movement. This is about women in the world wanting to be treated in a certain way, and men too, actually, and non-binary people, and just everybody. This is about the dignity of workers, predominantly. Like Me Too does go into some more personal things, but most of the things that it is talked about and dealt with are about work and money and power and who has what. And that was something that we didn't capitalize on. And we didn't capitalize on it in talking about things like, and I'm gonna, oh my God, I'm so brain dead. Um, what is it? Everybody, when you go and you work, you sign these non-disclosure agreements a lot of time, and you don't even necessarily know. Um, that that's what you're signing. Um, and there was a bill that people were trying to pass to make these kinds of things illegal, so that when you go into to sign an employment, you're not signing away your rights, right? Um, and it is, yeah, because we had decided that Me Too fit into the gender feminism section of leftism and not the class, not the worker section. We didn't, like, we couldn't bridge that gap in our brain, in our activism, because we've decided it's an identity problem and not a class problem, or God only knows what the hell we're thinking. But I know that it wasn't considered holistically. And we should be considering these things holistically. I'm telling you right now, um, yeah, this is just me. This is my fucking opinion for whatever you want. Um, but we will never solve these identity issues until capitalism is gone. We don't have a hope of it because capitalism depends on them. It needs them. It's not a case of it just happens to use it. No, you need underclasses in capitalism. You need people that you can exploit. Especially the more money that you want out of people, the more exploitation, and that's how you're going to maximize and increase and move your profits. You need people, and you need it to be okay with the other people, right? And the only reason on some level that we are okay with the fact that the stuff that we have, stuff you can't see. All right, not my kid stuff. Um, but a lot of the stuff that we have that is made for us is made by child labor or uh, you know um, sweatshops or whatnot. And the reason that we're okay with that on some level is because we're racist, because we don't think that they're as human as we are. And we've been ingrained in that. The reason that we're okay with migrant kids picking our vegetables and fruit in the hot sun for hours upon hours every day instead of going to school is because racism has allowed us on some level to be okay with that. Even the people of us who never think about ourselves as racism and would deny that, there's still some separation in our minds. And Angie has pointed out that, you know, you have these, if you're a woman of color, you're going to support white women, and then, but you're not necessarily going to see that reciprocated. And that's, I think that's true of every marginalized identity. I've definitely felt that way. Not that in terms of, I have seen other, and I'm sure even myself, I have seen white feminists do this. I've been called out as a white feminist. And I've had to process that I fucked up. So that's what I mean by that. Hey, Kevin Logan. Hi. Whew. I heard you had fun today. Yeah. I do a little bit tremble with indignation at every injustice. So I guess me and Che Guevara could have been pals. Because it bothers me. It bothers me that I found out that, and it wasn't even surprising to me, that we lost all these children. That the United States had taken from refugees. And now they don't know where they are. And it's a, boy, that upsets me. Sorry. Like, it just hit me how much I'm upset about that. Like, not that me being upset does shit for anybody. But there it is. It fucked up. And I'm telling you that on some level, racism is a part of that. It's a part of the way that most of us are going to process it and move on. And for many of us, it's just going to be a thing that happened, and it's going to be forgotten. I did not expect this to go this dark. Sorry. But that's what we're doing here. And those are the stakes. As Adam says, I think we've come full circle to the matter of mere political disagreements. Yeah, there's a special circle in hell for people who who talk about this as if they're just having ideas. They're just talking about their disagreement. Why are you so mean to people who just disagree with you? Anyway. So then we get to toxic call-out culture and the incentivization of bad faith. And that's a really fucking tricky one. That one is going to be, because there is the need to call people out. And again, I think that we should we should be trying first and foremost not to call out people as our as a knee-jerk response, um, and instead to be thinking about ways that we can talk to and communicate with and maybe educate ourselves and each other, um, instead of finding ways to sow division and difficulty. But again, I will say it again because I already said it, that's fine. The left is not a social club. If you want a social club, go join a social club. The left is about getting shit done. And so you're going to have to decide what you're on board for or what you're not on board for. And that's going to be fine. It's not like I'm going to slap you around, but it also doesn't mean I'm going to tolerate your crap. And it also doesn't mean that I'm going to waste my time on you when there are people out there who need me a lot more than your your social needs and your need to continue to be an asshole and not get called out for it. So it's like, those are the things, like, people make mistakes, people fuck up, people have to be given a chance to do better. People have to be educated so that they know how to do better and this sort of thing. But I'm not spending all my time doing that either. And you shouldn't have the sense of entitlement of expecting that. But yeah, I think Angie was absolutely right when she said that you can, when you find out you can get power, you can get attention um, by talking about these things. By sort of like calling people out for more minor things, right? For more smaller various things. Oh, this person said a naughty thing, and instead of like thinking about this and thinking about the most productive way to handle this, I'm just gonna cancel them. I'm just gonna talk on Twitter about how horrible they are and how awful they are for and just that's it. You know, well, that'll get you some likes, but it won't necessarily get people anywhere, right? So again, it's awareness. It's about having a conversation, and all of these should be conversations that we are having, that and that are inclusive conversations, and are conversations where we support each other and are very open and honest with each other. Because again, I'm gonna kind of quote Angie here, that a conscious movement, we have a responsibility to pay keen attention to what we want to do in the community that we want to build, and we need and we have a responsibility to think about ways that we can compassionately empower people. And there's a lot of like just straight practical ways that we can do this. On social media, we can offer ourselves people who, look, I'm not very good at YouTubing. I'm going to be honest. I could be. I started this out telling you about how my whole Disney video was swallowed whole by Adobe Premiere, and I'm hoping to resurrect it from the dead. And if I can't, I'll just have to do it all the fuck over again. Ugh. But like, for those people who do have that, they could be making videos and saying, here's how you can do this, and here's an easy way for you to get at it. Or you could be seeking out people who are new. What I try to do is provide the more uh, moral supporty kinds of things, because I feel like I'm good at that. I can't tell you how to make a video correctly or well. I can tell you how to do it basically, but I can't tell you how to do it really awesomely. But I can, turn around and say, I like that video that you did over there, or I think that you're doing great at that. And boy, would you like to be on a live stream? You should come on my channel sometime. I love the things that you have to say. Like, I think that by being openly supportive, it probably comes across to some people as ass kissing. I don't care. You know what? We have to, we're all in this together. And we need to, we're only ever going to be able to do this together. I am not going to be able to fix the problems that we've got going on. You are not going to be able to fix the problems that are going on. We could do it, but only if we do it as a we. And so I think that's everybody. That's all of our responsibility and all of us together. And I hope we keep having these conversations. I hope we keep thinking about the ways that we can move on from here, and that we aren't going to just let YouTube, the algorithm, or Twitter metrics just yank us around, but that we are going to be aware and active agents within, and that the number one thing, and this is, people are going to find this weird. Let's do a thought experiment together at the as we wrap this up, okay? And I want you to think about what it would be like if it, if nobody could screw you over. If you could just intimately trust the leftists, right? No, not nuclear. I'm about love. There will be no nuclear bombs. There will be no torturing of Muslims. What it would be like to be open to loving and caring about people. What it would be like to be able to trust your comrades. And to count on them, and to have them count on you, and to be part of a community that is healthy and has good boundaries and is strong, and where nobody has to compete with other people to show that they have more likes or subscribers, but where we can have sort of a circle of trust. And just think about what that would be like. And what would that look like to you? What would that feel like to you? And how does it make you feel to think about that? Do you feel anxious or nervous? Do you feel confused? Do you feel um, like you can't have that kind of trust, um, or or does some part of that make you feel invigorated or happy or like you'd really like to see that? Now, I'm not going to promise you that we can have something quite that utopian or ideal, but I think if we can think about that as something that we want, we can start to let some of our own defensiveness down and think about ways that we could support each other and help each other and build communities, build relationships, build trust with each other, because we're going to need it. We need that. We need each other. It's going to be up to us. Yeah, 12 years to save the world, people, from climate disaster. Uh, Capitalism, not going to do it. Not going to fix it. Like, so let's take a minute to wish each other well and um, to say, comrades, I love you and I believe in you and I think we can do this together. And you know what? Even if we can't, I'm going to go down swinging and I'm going to go down with the people that I care about. And I hope you'll be there with me. All right, so that's it. That's all I got. So thank you for listening. And um, yeah, I hope you guys have a great week. And cool. Thanks. Love you. Bye.